A happy Friday, everyone. Baseball is back today after a day off. A day off kind of sucks, but it allows you to reset mentally. It allows you to reset your emotions. And today is a new day, a new series, a West Coast trip, and the trade deadline is 6 days away. Joining us to talk about it is friend of the program and a personal life friend of mine, Mark Luino at Giraffe Neck Mark, host of the Mets Up podcast with our nicely haired friend James Shiano. Mark, welcome aboard. How you doing?
Dude, doing well, man. Trade deadlines are already starting to get moving. We saw Josh Naylor traded last night. I'm excited to talk about what the Mets could be doing at the trade deadline this year. There's a lot this team could be doing.
I've been writing every day a new mock trade because on August 1st, there's no more to write about that. Like, you can't
No.
write because do you think there'll still be waiver trade? Did they change the rules where you can't make a waiver trade now in August?
The rules are different in that, like, there used to be that waiver trade deadline at the end of August. Now there no longer exists. You can still make waiver claims, but those guys, I believe, can't be on the major league roster. It's not nearly as interesting as it was in the past.
So you can't place can you place a major, say the Mets placed, I don't know, Starling Marte on waivers on August 17th. Can he be claimed by another team and acquired and play the rest of the year and the playoffs, or he's not eligible for playoffs? How does that work?
There's a specific date for the eligibility for playoffs. I don't know what that date is exactly. And typically because of that, teams haven't been doing this as much the last couple seasons, which is why like no one really pays attention to the waiver deadline anymore. I think the last guys that happened to were like when the Angels traded for Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez a couple years ago out of nowhere, and then they waived him like a week later. But usually now in the new like rules and everything, no one is really moving at the waivers.
Mets fan, podcaster, YouTuber, and our rules expert, our monthly rules expert. Last time we were talking about options and Acuna and all the
Yes.
trickiness with the options. Josh Naylor, the first name to move. By the way, I just noticed on the graphic, I'm so sorry, I put July 24th. It is actually July 25th. So it's Friday, July 25th. We're not going to redo it. We're doing it as it is. So we apologize for that mistake that you see next to Mark's head there. That's my first date mistake. So it took 7 months, one date mistake. I've made a lot of date mistakes in reality, in real life, but not on the Mets Daily program. So sorry about that. But Josh Naylor traded for two prospects. What do you think of the return? And now it seems like the Diamondbacks, the reports are they got 5 or 6 more guys to trade. They're going to trade every one of these rentals. It didn't seem like a great return, but what do you know about the return, and what do you think's coming next, and how does it affect the Mets? 3-part question.
Yeah, so first, great trade by the Mariners. Second, not a bad trade by the Diamondbacks. The return isn't anything that you're going to be like hanging banners about or bragging about, but the Brandon Garcia guy that they got is going to be a very, very serviceable reliever at the absolute worst, and a guy who started in the past. He has years of control. He's free. That would be like very much a player that you'd expect a team like looking on the margins to go after, Brandon Garcia. Ashton Izzy is the prospect that they went after. That's, I've been saying more is like their lottery ticket, where you love his fastball. He has a good changeup. You're hoping you're going to develop a third pitch. They're both guys that are very much works in progress, and Izzy being more so, being only 21 years old, where Garcia is a major league ready guy right now. But for Josh Naylor, half a season of him, a guy who is a first baseman, doesn't hit for the most power. He's more of an average and on-base guy over power. It's a completely fine return. The problem was that the Diamondbacks made a trade for Naylor in the offseason where they gave up a very capable major league pitcher for him. That hurts them more. But for the trade market and for the Mets, that's actually a pretty decent sign, I think, what was given up. That's something that the Mets have plenty of in their farm system right now, those caliber of prospects, those caliber of players. So when I saw that package back, I felt good because we've seen the deadlines gotten out of control for prices over the last couple of years. That felt pretty realistic from both sides.
And we know Eugenio Suarez is not happening. So people got to stop talking about him coming to the Mets. It's not happening. So now when you look at the Diamondbacks, it's really down to Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen, pretty much, right? Am I forgetting anyone else? Those are the two names, I think. And I talked about Merrill Kelly yesterday because, one, he's just having a better year. And I know he's 36. He is older. He was a late bloomer. He didn't really get to the big leagues until he was 30 years old. But I also like that he did have, now it's only 4 starts, but he had success in the 2023 postseason. He had 4 strong starts, and the Mets have to think about when they're getting a starter, Mark, who are they getting that's going to maybe start in the playoffs? Because they can talk about Clay Holmes being a playoff starter as much as they want. I am not confident he is getting to that finish line. It's like me in a marathon. I'm going to stop for snacks. I'm not going to make it to the finish line. I'm going to bow out halfway through. I don't think Clay Holmes is getting there. So I like Kelly. Who do you like of those two? Do you like those two? And what would it take? I've wrote about packages, and some people say I'm giving up too much in a package. It seems like the Naylor deal, maybe they get away with trading like a Pintaro and a number 18th ranked Mets prospect to get him.
Yeah, so the Mets pitching problem to me again is still always the bullpen, and I would not say no to a Zach Gallen or a Merrill Kelly. I think both those guys are good pitchers, right? Gallen's been playing terribly this year, but I still think get him with Jeremy Hefner, get him with the Mets. Maybe you could squeeze a little bit out of him before he becomes a free agent. I don't think either of those guys in the form that they're at right now start a playoff game for this Mets roster. I think Sean Manaea obviously is going to. David Peterson is going to. Kodai Senga is going to. And Frankie Montas has been great. Like, Frankie Montas has been a good pitcher. I think those are your starters right there, with Clay Holmes maybe being a guy that piggybacks off of someone else in the start. So I don't think that the alarm bells are necessarily ringing. I don't think that there's this crazy need to go get a Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen, especially because right now, I don't know if they start over any of the guys that the Mets have in their rotation. Now, of course, there probably is going to be an injury. That's just how pitching works. That's how the season goes on. There's a lot of games left. You have to be prepared for that. If there is a problem, if there is an injury, you have guys there to fill it in those spots. And maybe this is where I'm mistaken. I think the Mets will be looking to their young prospects to be those guys if there are injuries, rather than going and stacking major league caliber back end starters, which are what Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen are. But if they were, I don't expect that the price is going to be very expensive. I don't know if Pintaro is a guy that anyone particularly has interest in, just because he's a little bit older and a guy that's been unproven, really, especially because he came from independent ball. But the package wouldn't be anything crazy, and I don't think you'd be giving up any prospects that Mets fans would be kind of devastated or disappointed to be losing.
I proposed, and now looking back at it, now that I see the Naylor return, I probably gave away too much in my package. I said A.J. Ewing and Jack Wenninger.
Oh, yeah, it's way too much. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think Wenninger and maybe, I don't know, a Marco Vargas, is that a fair trade?
I would even say that Wenninger is a guy that's got more than you're giving him credit for. Right now in Double-A, I think he has like the second highest K to walk ratio in that league, behind, I think, only Jonah Tong. So while Wenninger may not be, I'm not comping him to Jonah Tong at all. Jonah Tong's a top 100 prospect. He's awesome. I think the Mets like Wenninger. He is someone that I think that you would move maybe more in a Dylan Cease trade. I think he'd be more moved in a frontline starter that is going to make an impact in the postseason when the Mets get there.
So you have interest in Cease. See, to me, I just think he's been terrible this year. Like, do you have faith that the Hefner lab is turning Cease back to a frontline starter? You look at Cease as, what, a Game 3 Mets starter at this point?
I think he could be a Game 2, Game 3 guy. Like, I think right now you're rocking Peterson and Senga and Manaea. Like, those guys I feel confident with. Cease has the ability where Manaea, Peterson, Senga don't. He just has the swing and miss stuff. Like, he is a guy who can strike out 13, 14 guys in a playoff game if he goes 7 innings, which sounds insane. But when you have that potential, that's what's most exciting to me. He has been horrible this year. He's also been one of the most unlucky pitchers in baseball as well. So I think there's a little bit of back and forth. There's going to be a little regression to mean. I don't think Dylan Cease is like a $300 million pitcher in the offseason. I'm not giving him this big bag or this big contract. But for a Mets team, I'd much rather focus our prospects and our assets towards a guy like Dylan Cease, who I think is a legitimate playoff starter, should be a playoff starter, where Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen, we might look in a month and be like, oh man, this is like Paul Blackburn 2.0.
Listen, I wouldn't say Merrill Kelly's Paul Blackburn, but I get what you're saying. He might not start a playoff game. The issue too for me is the Padres are still in the race. Could be competing with the Mets in the wild card if the Phillies end up taking the division, which I hope doesn't happen. And I think the Mets can very much win this division, but they're not going to be the nicest to the Mets. And that's what I worry about this deadline is the Steve Cohen effect. These teams are going to ask for the world from the Mets, where maybe they'll take a little less from a team that's not the Mets, that doesn't have the bag that the Mets have. Don't you think that factors in here at the trade deadline at all, or no?
I actually don't. I think a lot of the times, like, teams don't actually care who the ownership is. At the end of the day, like, whoever the president of baseball operations is, or in the Padres' sake, let's just say AJ Preller is, who makes all the big decisions for them. AJ Preller doesn't care that Steve Cohen owns the Mets. AJ Preller doesn't care that the Mets spend all this money. He wants to go out and get the most he can possibly get on the market for a guy if he's going to move him, especially if that's Dylan Cease. I don't think the Mets have any effect on that whatsoever. If they feel like the Mets give the best package, they're going to take it. If they feel like, let's just throw out another team like the Phillies or the Yankees or somebody else were to give a better package, that's who they're going to go with. I think we saw a rumor this morning that apparently the Padres were talking with the Red Sox about moving Cease and Salas for Jarren Duran, and the Red Sox laughed at them. They're going to ask for a lot back for Cease. I don't think it's going to be a cheap, trade by any means, especially because they are still in the playoffs. But I don't think there's like a Mets factor of they're going to have to pay extra because they're the Mets.
You're watching Mets Daily. Smash that thumbs up on this video now. Click that subscribe button. Scan that QR code you see on my side if you want to become a Mets Daily Insider. For $5 a month, you get a weekly watch party, a weekend video, and a giveaway coming at the end of the month. We appreciate your support. He's Giraffe Neck Mark at Giraffe Neck Mark. Subscribe to his YouTube. Subscribe to the Mets Stuff podcast as well. I am at Jake Brown Live, RIP Jake Brown Radio. End of an era. A lot of live appearances on the week. I did 4 digital Pix 11 shows with Figgy. I was on Pix 11 last night, so I changed the name, and suddenly I'm on TV and stuff. So I credit the name change. Getting rid of a dying brand for a live brand. It's rejuvenated me. As you see, I'm rocking the Astoria shirt. Me and Mark Astorians. We've had some nights on Astoria. We were out together, and we've mentioned on here before when they acquired Jesse Winker. We cheersed our White Claws or our Miller High Life drinks at the Diddy, and we got Jesse Winker. Now you hope for a bigger bat at the deadline and a seamless transition because I am such a professional is getting that kind of outfielder. And you mentioned Jarren Duran. It does seem like the price is going to just be too sky high for the Mets to really have a chance at him, and the Red Sox are in the wild card right now. So what do you think about center field? Luis Robert Jr. is obviously the name coming out. To me, I'm not in love with him. If it's a low-level prospect, sure, he's an upgrade from Tyrone Taylor, but I just don't know how much a guy like that makes the Mets better.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Luis Robert.
Really?
I don't care what his numbers are. I've seen that guy play baseball before, and when things are going right, and again, you have every right, I think, to doubt Luis Robert because he's now gone on basically 2 full seasons of being a
By the way, is it Robert
player.
or Robert? Like, do we know?
It's both. It's both.
I like Robert better because it's like, bonjour, monsieur Robert.
I mean, he's Cuban. Like, I don't think anybody in Cuba has called him Luis Robert. Like,
Robert,
that seems like the American way to call it. But he's also been, like, in front of microphones saying both. You can call me Robert. You can call me Robert. He doesn't care. So take that for how you will. He's given you 2 full seasons of being worthless the last couple seasons. This year, though, under the hood, he's still hitting the ball hard. His plate approach and discipline is much better than it's been. He plays a great center field, and I really do think this is just the most obvious change of scenery guy. It's just get him out of Chicago, get him out of that loser team in the White Sox. I think people forget that he was a part of this young core that was building there and was supposed to be competing for World Series championships, winning the AL Central. And just like that, in the middle of the night, he looked around and all his friends are gone. And he's like, where is everybody? I'm the last guy here. It's probably a little bit disappointing as a player when you come up and immediately there's success and then you see the team completely rip it out from under you. So attitude, sure, might be a problem for him. He might not be motivated. I can see those all being negatives for a guy. But on the market, for the price that we'd give, there's not many players who I think can make this massive, massive impact. Just a few seasons ago, he's an MVP candidate. And I know it's been bad, but seeing that top-end talent, the way I've been explaining it to people is, at the absolute worst, he's better than Tyrone Taylor. At the best, we're getting a Cespedes-type impact bat at the trade deadline and could completely change the outlook of this team. And if he stinks, you cut him. You don't have to pick up the option next year. He's gone. He's someone else's problem. I think it's a no-brainer. Like, if there was a number one person I would be going after, it's Luis Robert on the trade dedeadline.
If it's number one over anyone. Wow.
Over anyone.
Clip
number
this,
one.
Folks.
For the Mets.
A sizzling hot take for the Mets. You're saying over Jarren Duran.
Jarren Duran is not available for the Mets. He's not realistic.
Okay, so you're saying out of the rental center
correct.
Field options, over a Mullins, over a Willie Castro.
Yep.
Very interesting. Okay, that's somewhat of a hot take, but Listen, the people that agree with you will say this: he's 8 for 18 since the All-Star break. He's got now it's like 5-6 games, but
Sure.
he has basically an RBI every game. He basically steals every game. That Mr. Small Ball Jake Brown lay down the bunt loves Luis Robert. 26 stolen bases. It feels like every time he gets on, he's going to swipe a bag. So I do like that about him. Now, Tyrone Taylor's fast too, but Tyrone Taylor almost never hits and is not hitting for as much power. The guy does have 10 homers, like we talked about 2 years ago. I mean, this was a guy who hit 38 home runs. I mean, it's pretty remarkable that he's just 2 years removed from a 38 homer season. So, I wouldn't hate it. And what do you think the cost is? Like, is it like just a Wenninger? I don't know why I keep bringing him up, but he's having a really good year. Is it cost an AJ Ewing? Is that too much?
What's crazy is those guys might be too much, but also at the same time, I'll drive them to Chicago or wherever they're going to go play in the minor leagues if that's what the trade is. Like, at the end of the day, this is going to sound crazy. Like, AJ Ewing's having a great year, right? And this is nothing against AJ Ewing as a player. If he ever has a season like Luis Robert has had, that is a massive, massive success for Mets player development. We do get obsessed with prospects and looking at stats, but at the end of the day, he doesn't hit the baseball hard, and he's an athleticism guy over actual making noise, contact, all that kind of stuff. Great player, 400 on base, having a good year. Not trying to take anything away from him. But Luis Robert is like that guy. He's done it already at the major league level. I would go as much as I would be like, yeah, if the White Sox called and said like Blade Tidwell for Luis Robert, I'd make that trade in a heartbeat. Like, to me, the top level caliber that Luis Robert can give, that doesn't happen. There's not many players ever available that can make that kind of impact.
I also would trade Blade Tidwell in a heartbeat for Luis Robert. It's interesting to say, like, is it going to be a 1-for-1? Is it 2-for-1? But it's interesting. Now, I think he's available for the taking. So the question is, why don't the Mets just do it? I worry that Stearns is happy with and I know McNeil's your guy, and you don't want McNeil to lose playing time, but it seems like you'll have him lose playing time just fine if it means Luis Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I think still at the end of the day, this team is best when McNeil is playing second base, Beatty's playing third base. You can platoon him with Mauricio. You can platoon Mauricio with McNeil even at second base. Like, I think McNeil's most valuable when he's moving around the field. You can still then go play left field, give Brandon Nimmo a day to DH, or you give Juan Soto a day to DH, especially because we don't know when Jesse Winker's coming back. I think, though, the one that I've had circled that just feels like it's going to happen, and I don't think anyone's talking about it too much, I think Harrison Bader's back as a Met, honestly. I think that's what it ends up being. Here's what I'll say, though, Jake. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The bat speed is significantly up from last year. He's hitting the ball harder than he ever has. He's hitting the ball in the air more. He is just a better version of Tyrone Taylor. If we don't want to break the bank and go after someone crazy, Harrison Bader makes his team better, as much as that sounds.
I'd rather the guy I wrote about, and that's Willie Castro, because he plays every single position. I mean, I love the fact that he plays left, center, right, second, third, short. Like, if anyone goes down, hey, we got Willie Castro. He could play that position. He'll be your Super Joe. Super Joe was on the field for David Wright's ceremony last week. Something about, and he was an all-star last year. And then,
no, Willie Castro's a good player. I like him. I would take him on this team as well.
I would take him over Bader. Bader, to me, what happened?
I don't know if he can play center, though. That's the only thing. Willie Castro in center feels like you're just kind of doing the Jeff McNeil thing all over again.
Oh, and McNeil's worked out just fine. So he's played 100 games in his career in center. Like, it's not like he hasn't played it. I'm not saying he's going to be a Gold Glover. You have Tyrone Taylor for a late-game defensive replacement, but the Mets need to make sure in August, September, and this isn't a slight to Tyrone Taylor, but he shouldn't start one single game in center field. Maybe for a day of rest for someone. If the Mets are serious about winning this division and contending for a championship, they're not starting Tyrone Taylor in center field. Start McNeil some days, start either Robert or Castro some days, but you need a guy who's not going to be a liability completely at the plate, and that's what Taylor is. Now, he goes on stretches where he'll have a big double, a big hit, but it's just so rare and once in a blue moon. You need every day that part of the lineup not to be a black hole. And the Mets are hoping it's not a hole now with Alvarez, who looks rejuvenated, who looks good since he came back. Now you can replace center field. That's not a black hole. And unfortunately, the black holes are gone. They're all orange and blue now, Mark.
Yes, no, that would be. If they can address center field, is like, I know bullpen's important. I think we're going to go out and get a ton of arms. I'm really not worried about replenishing the bullpen. I am worried about center field because, like you mentioned, Tyrone Taylor just cannot be playing every single day for a championship team in center field, especially with the fact that the Mets just aren't hitting as a team in general. Like, we need to make some fixes there, and center field is the most glaring issue right now, offensively.
And they're going to come to a breaking point here with Mark Vientos. Is he going to be the D? He's hit a little bit better lately. And listen, a single a day isn't like hitting much better, but from what he was, it's better. But you can't baby this guy. You can't coddle this guy. You got to figure out, hey, how can we get the most production out of DH? Because I think it's pretty obvious. Mark Vientos probably shouldn't play third the rest of the year. The way Ronnie Mauricio is I love Ronnie Mauricio. I don't think enough people realize what Ronnie Mauricio can be and the fact he's had 2 to 3 months of big league experience. You know, Brett Beatty's had 4 years, so it's nice to see him come around, but it's taken a whole presidential term for Brett Beatty to finally show us something where Ronnie Mauricio still got the training wheels on, and he's showing us the potential that he has. And I know he struggled from the right side. I think he'll come around there from the right, but as a left-hand hitter, he could hit the ball as hard as anyone. He can hit out of the park. He could run the bases. He's playing a really smooth, you got Rico Garcia in the bullpen. You got Rico Suave in Rico Ronnie, we could call him in the field. He's just a smooth, cold stone killer out there, which I like about him. But they're going to have to come to a point here, Mark, with Mark Vientos. Is he going to continue to be the DH? Are they going to try to trade him here in the next week? I don't know if they'll ever demote him this year, but They can't. Like, what do you do with Vientos,
Shout out Billy Epler.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough – shout out to Billy Epler. But, and Marte, too. I mean, Marte's hitting right. Marte's been hitting that it feels like you also have to play him. And he's got the chunkla. He's holding the chunkla, the flip-flop chunkla, that he is just the glue guy. So what the hell do you do with all this?
Yeah, you try and move Vientos. I think he still has some value, and I do think that there's a path to going back to the player that he was. He needs to swing the bat harder. He needs to move further back in the box. He needs to hit the ball out in front. I think these are all things that everybody knows that Mark Vientos needs to do in order to get back to the 2024 version of him that really helped boost this team to the playoffs last year. He was a integral part of that entire run. You can't take that away from him. And I hate giving up on a guy like Mark Vientos because we've seen how good he can be, but because of how the roster is built, the Mets right now are better with Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty on this roster over Mark Vientos. There isn't a roster crunch just yet, but we know it's eventually going to happen. And I don't want to see Mauricio or Beatty go down because they're both playing well. Vientos can't. So they're going to, I think, look to trade him if possible for the right deal. I don't know what that is. I don't know what team would be interested in a player like Mark Vientos that has no options. It's a tough guy to move. He has to pick it up. Maybe he does this weekend. Maybe he does over the next week. And we're talking about how we can't get rid of Vientos. He's starting to click kind of like Alvarez looks like he did this past weekend. But right now, the way that we've seen Mark Vientos, it is hard to see where he fits into this team. And I think David Stearns is aware of that as well.
Mark Vientos, A.J. Ewing, and we'll go back to my guy, Captain Jack Wenninger. 4, Joe Ryan, Danny Coulomb, and Willie Castro.
Not nearly enough. Not even close to enough. Oh, not even close.
So you think Vientos is really not valued at all by teams right now?
No. If the Mets were to go get Joe Ryan, who I don't even know if he is available, but let's pretend that he is, I would love him on this team. He'd be the number one starter on this team. It's not even close. You're giving up one of the top prospects. You're giving up Jet Williams. You're giving up maybe Sproat. You're giving up a big name. You have to start it with there. Vientos, Ewing, Wenninger. Those guys would not be even close to enough.
Yeah, the worry with Vientos is his value is at its lowest now. Is this the time to trade him? But it's also like, if he's not hitting, you can't keep playing him the last 2 months and in October. So it's like, if not now, when is it going to be? I think if he's still here in the offseason, I think he definitely moves. So of those 4, you look at Vientos to be the first you would trade. Mauricio, in my mind, Mauricio is the last I would trade. And it's probably Beatty 2, Acuna 3, or maybe Acuna 2, Beatty 3.
Acuna's my 1. He's the number 1 guy. I actually think the Mets will be looking to move aggressively this deadline. I think that's part of the reason why he's up right now. Get him in front of people. Hopefully he catches a little fire. You trade him away for a reliever. I think Acuna's the number 1 guy to get rid of. Number 2, Mark Vientos. 3, Beatty. 4, Mauricio for those reasons.
Do you have faith in David Stearns at this deadline? To me, I think this is a make or break deadline for him in some ways, because I think everything, in the words of Aaron Boone, is right in front of you. I think in a year where the parity is off the charts in the league. Now, we know the Dodgers, have basically been phantom ILing everyone to make sure that they're ready for October. But do you have faith that Stearns will make the necessary move? I think he had a nice deadline last year, but to me, he's got to be a little bit more aggressive this deadline. and needs to realize this team does need reinforcements. I know they were the best team in baseball at one point, but if they go into August 1st with what they have and maybe one additional reliever, it's just not going to be enough to get over the top.
I want him to do more. I have faith in David Stearns. I don't think it's going to be the trade deadline Mets fans want. I don't think there's going to be any flashy, sexy names by any means. I am trying to kind of temper expectations. That's not really how David Stearns operates. And with the market that is out there right now, there aren't many actual flashy names that are going to make a difference on this team. Like, I don't even know if Sandy Alcantara makes a playoff appearance right now with how he's been pitching and the rest of this Mets rotation. So when you look at the big names that are available, is this the time to push in some of those chips? Probably not, but I do want to see him go out and get a couple legitimate relievers. I want him to go bolster up that bullpen. I want to go get a center fielder. If he doesn't do that, I will be disappointed, but I'm not losing faith in David Stearns. Again, this team has turned around quicker than we expected. Last year was a great season. I'm going to give him his time. I'm going to give him his opportunities. It takes a lot, especially when you have to clean up the mess that Billy Epler and Zach Scott and Jared Porter and Brody Van Wagenen have been making over the last decade. You can go back through all the previous guys the Mets had. There's a lot of shit to clean up, but for David Stearns, I would love to see him be more aggressive than he has been in the past right now.
Yeah, and you'll have people in the comments on here. Make sure you comment. Let us know your trade proposal. What do you think of what we said so far? Do you like Luis Robert Jr.? Who do you want to get? Let us know in the comments. At DraftNeckMark, at Jake Brown Live. I have faith in him. You have people in the comments, stingy Stearns, cheapo Stearns. I think he's been a good GM. Listen,
when people say that, I'm like, but what did you want him to do? He didn't sign Corbin Burns. Thank God he didn't go sign Corbin Burns. So good thing he was stingy there. I genuinely do wonder when people say that. I'm like, but who did they miss? The one player that I go back to over and over again is Cody Bellinger. The fact we weren't in on him drives me insane. I wanted him from day one. But everybody else, I'm like, we got Juan Soto. We got some pitching. Like, I don't know what else he could have really done.
Yeah, I think the miss was Montas and paying him as early as they did.
But he's pitching well, so is it a miss? Okay. And look at all the other pitchers.
You could have got Jose Quintana for $4 million. I mean, that was he judged the pitching market way too. If he waited it out the market, he could have had a much better starter than Frankie Montas. So I think that was his big mistake. And
Jose Quintana's $17 million a year right now, but that's what the going price is for starters. Jose Quintana could like this in the middle of the night. Like I'm much more trusting in Frankie Montas's future this season than in Jose Quintana's.
Well, the worry is you got to pay Montas again next year because it's a player option, and he'd be out of his mind if he declined that option. He's taking
pitching
that.
Well. Why the Frankie Montas name? What do you mean? He's been fine. He's been great.
Fine, but again, what is he in the long term? He's a number 5 starter. So
he's coming back from an injury. Like he's been pitching completely okay. He's going to give you 5 innings. He's going to throw strikes, 5 strikeouts a game.
I just wish they could give you a starter that could go for 6 innings. God forbid. I mean, it's like Christmas when they get 6 innings. Listen, that's the only. I think I like Stearns. I think that was just the one mistake that I think he made was paying Montas as early as he did. The Siri trade has obviously worked out much better for the Rays. Eric Orr's was been fantastic, and that's the Rays pitching lab.
Yeah.
But you also didn't expect him to get hurt. And him to, get rehab and he'd take longer rehab. I mean, he's pretty much he's basically a pinch runner in October at this point, maybe if he comes back, but that's about it. It probably doesn't even make the roster at this rate. So if you had to say the Mark Luino trade deadline, optimal, realistic trade deadline, what players are the Mets getting?
Luis Robert, I think it's realistic. I really do. That's my optimal guy in center field. And then in the bullpen, I love to see them add a Danny Coulomb or a Caleb Ferguson to get another legitimate left-handed arm in there. So I'd like to go there for the left-handed reliever side. On the right-hand side, I don't know who the guy is going to be. There's no name that really jumps out to me. In a dream world, I'd love to get Ryan Helsley on this team. It seems like he's going to be moved by the Cardinals. I think that would be a huge impact arm. Be the 8th inning guy, or even if you need to use Edwin in the 8th, he could be the 9th. He has the closer experience. That would be the guy, or a Dave Bednar even from Pittsburgh as well. I'd love to see him come on over.
I would love Bednar. I worry the asking price might be high, but the Mets have to consider. I mean, this was an all-star closer at one point. And so you don't think that they end up getting a starting pitcher? Is that what your gut says?
Yeah, I honestly, it's not even a slight word for me. If they do, great. I'm not gonna like complain, be like, oh, the Mets didn't need it. But my focus is more on the actual holes this Mets team has. I think a lot of Mets fans in their head think are waiting right for the starting pitching to implode. I think we just know that it might not. And even look at what the Dodgers did with their starting pitching last year when they made their run. Like Jack Flaherty was their guy, and Yamamoto made some appearances here and there. But like they were doing bullpen games in the World Series and in the NLCS. Like, I think we have to look at the way that we change how we think about pitching, modernize it a little bit more, and realize there's very few teams that are going to be able to run out 4, 5, 6 good deep starters in a postseason run. Where the Mets have 4 really good ones right now, and a 5th one that's up in debate with Clay Holmes if you can still keep pitching.
And I don't know if it's about the implosion, but it's about the injuries. Sean and I dealing with the bone chips in the elbow. He's been it's early. He's been gassed so far. I'd like to see him get through 6 or 7 here in the next week or two. But, they're an injury away from that frontline rotation to not being a great rotation.
That's the thing. It's like
not the
everybody
Dodgers.
is.
Dodgers aren't, but they could have
I mean,
5 injuries and be fine, it seems like.
Yeah, yes and no. They also still have like 7 injuries at the same time. It's like, I don't know. I think I'm not going to complain if we go trade for starting pitching. Sure, I'd love Dylan Cease. I'd love to go bring in another arm. Why not? Let's get better. I'm always down for this Mets roster to be better, but I think where the Mets should be focusing is relief in center field.
All right. Yeah, mine would probably be Coulomb. Helsley would be. Helsley's not a name I really mentioned here, but if I say one of each, I want Coulomb, I want Kelly. As much as you don't agree, I think Kelly would not cost you much for a rental.
Oh, he'd be cheap, yeah.
He's worth getting as an insurance option to this rotation and has had postseason success. That's where Mitch Keller loses it for me. He hasn't pitched a big game in his life. The Pirates haven't played meaningful games in September, let alone October. How do you know he won't, be good? You like Mitch Keller?
No, I have no interest in Mitch Keller. I just think he stinks. I know his numbers have been pretty good. I'm just not a Mitch Keller fan. It's not from the perspective of like he's never played winning baseball. I don't like him as a pitcher when I watch him. I don't get it. I never understand why the Mets can't hit him. And also his price is going to be way too high. And I don't want to give up anything for Mitch Keller. We're doing them a favor.
Yeah. And he's got money committed for years. Now, I think closer is interesting because you mentioned Helsley, Joan Duran. I don't think David Stearns is paying Edwin Diaz this offseason. It just doesn't feel like he's giving $100 million to a closer. And I've said on here, I don't think he's paying. I don't think he's paying Pete Alonso. I think there's a chance Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz, this is their swan song with the Mets.
I don't know how much Edwin is going to opt out. I don't really see him getting a better contract than what he's going to have with the Mets for the next 3 years. I know a lot of people have been talking about this, and maybe I've missed something, but like $18.5 million at age 32 for Edwin Diaz, he's obviously a stud, but I don't know who's going to pay him more. If he wants to take that risk, I think that would be a crazy play by him.
Yeah, well, it's 15.5, 15.3, and then 17.2. I think he could get 4 years for 80. I mean, here's the thing. And the third year is a club option in 2028. So it's really two for 31. That's what I think he could get 4 from 80 from a team that needs a closer badly will pay up. I think he does love New York, though, and I do think he loves what the Mets are building here. I just think there's a chance he opts out and maybe asks for the Mets for more, and I just don't see Diaz. I don't see Stearns want to give him that because Stearns will say, hey, we'll go to this guy who's under team control for $3 million a year, or even a Clase who would cost $8 million a year, half the price. So I think, Mark, there is a chance that he opts out. I think that scares us a little bit.
Yeah, if he does, that's on him. You are correct, though. David Stearns will not be paying that.
Yeah. What do you think about Alonso?
Pete's gonna do what Pete did this season. He's gonna sign 1 and 2 year contracts for the rest of his career. He's gonna get paid $20 to $25 million a season. I love Pete. I want him here for the rest of his career as a Met because I think he is a very good baseball player. But we're gonna look back at his season. It's gonna be a very good season. It's gonna be very productive. But he's not gonna get the price tag that he wanted last offseason. He's not gonna get the price tag this offseason. It just feels like he's going to pick up the option for another $30 million, try it again, and then we're going to be stuck in this same loop of 1 and 2 year contracts for Pete Alonso for the next while.
I think it's 24 next year is the option.
Go down to 24
because he got the 10 million signing bonus. It was 30 this year, 24 next year. So you think he stays for 24? Interesting.
I mean, if he doesn't, then the Mets sign him to like a 3-4 year deal for like $24 million a year. So it depends if Pete wants to gamble on himself again. I don't think the market dictates Pete's getting paid more than that rate, really.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, we'll see how that plays out. All right, Mets, Giants, 6 games, and the next Thursday we find out what this team looks like. I kind of like that Thursday's an off day because you could just focus on the trade deadline. You have to focus on a game, and you're down a player or two. I feel like it never happens. I feel like they always play on the trade deadline, and it's right up until 6 o'clock. So are there any – I'm seeing it. Are there any games – is the whole league off that day? No, there are 3 games that night, so very few games, 1 at 1 o'clock, 2 at night. What do you think happens this weekend? Mets, Giants, Mets, Padres, 2 really tough series. My worry with this team is how bad they've been on the road. It's Clay Holmes versus Logan Webb tonight. Sunday night I got flexed to the night game, which kind of sucks.
Hate it.
3 night games. It's Peterson versus Ray tomorrow, a good battle tomorrow. And then Sunday night, Senga versus TBD. A little surprised. I thought Phillies Yankees might be the Sunday night game. Hate that. But what do you think happens on this road trip here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good test for the Mets. Like you said, they've been playing so bad on the road. The Giants are getting hot again, which, of course, that's never a great combination for the Mets. But they are a better team than the Giants. I think there's no doubt about that. The Mets are better. They should win this series, but this is a good test. San Francisco's a tough place to play, especially on the road. The weather's crazy there. The offense gets cooled off a little bit because it's just not a hitter-friendly ballpark. It's going to be a clean series. It's going to be tight. You need to make sure you get a lead because that bullpen for San Francisco is absolute dynamite. They do not give up runs. This could be a preview of a playoff series maybe that we see in October. This could be a wild card matchup. This could be, Mets win the division, but they're not one of the top 2 seeds. You could be facing the Giants. So I'd be keeping a close eye on everything here. Giants are a good team.
Yeah, I'm curious what these 2 teams do at the deadline and what they add or what they subtract. I assume they're both going to try to be adding, but it's a wild card for them. Now, the Dodgers have been not as good as we thought, but I think we eventually think they're going to break out and go on a heater here in the next couple of months when guys get healthy. Lastly, I forgot to ask you, 2 or 3 untradeable Mets prospects. Who are they?
Jonah Tong, I think, is untradeable. That's a guy that I'm not giving up. I thought earlier in the year that he was a classic helium guy where it was like, man, the hype is really starting to build on him. Let's cash in. The stuff I've been seeing recently, cannot give up Jonah Tong. I have no interest in it. He's an untradeable guy, especially on this market. With the players available on this market, Carson Benj, I think, is an untradeable guy as well right now. The way that he's been hitting the minors, the exit-velos look great. The slash line looks great. He's another guy. I don't want to move a McClain or Sproat again with the names that are on the market, but truthfully, maybe there's a guy I'm not considering. Maybe there's someone I don't know that's available. If it's that caliber of player, I'm okay with moving them, but I would like to see these guys at some point as Mets on the Major League roster. So I really have the 2.
So Jet Williams, Ryan Clifford, both very movable for the right piece.
Clifford's super movable. Clifford's a guy that I would trade right now. Jet, I love Jet as a player. I think Jet's going to be a very good major leaguer, but I would move Jet right now as well.
He's Mark Luino, the Mets Up Podcast. Check him out with Foul Territory and on YouTube, the Mets Up Podcast, YouTube, at Giraffe Neck Mark, YouTube. Follow him on socials. I'm Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live. Mark's a great follow. He's a friend of mine. He's been very supportive of me. I appreciate your support. And, someone I look up to in this business of all you've done at a young age in your 20s.
Appreciate it.
Hate to make you cry right now at the end of this show, but drop a tear. And looking forward to seeing you whenever I'm back in New York. I won't be back in New York for a couple weeks, probably mid-August for the Juan Soto bobblehead.
There we go.
It's my nephew's 2nd birthday next weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm flying down to Charlotte next weekend.
Nice.
So I'm missing Mets Giants, but I hate missing the first series after the trade deadline because I want to see the new players.
I know, right? You want to get there for their debut and everything. It's always exciting in the ballpark.
I'm so used to being there. I was in Astoria, and now it's fine. I'll live. I'll survive. But thank you so much for hopping on. Enjoy your weekend.
Of course, man.
Enjoy your time in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. Let's go Mets. Let's get some wins. Come on.
The Oregon Trail. Look for him running on the trail or playing the pickles. And I'm not a pickle guy. Ladies, you can take the pickles. Thanks for watching Mets Daily. Subscribe, smash that thumbs up. We'll talk to you on Monday, everybody.